Today's creepy story revolves around four mysterious gold rings discovered by a group of children in a crack in a piece of wood near a temple. Being curious and playful, as children often are, they picked up the rings to take a closer look. Little did they know, these rings would lead them to encounter eerie and terrifying experiences. This story is titled, The Haunted Ring. Before we dive into our scary story, we would like to ask everyone to like and subscribe to support us in continuing to bring you more terrifying tales in the future. This is a story about Matt, an incident that took place 20 years ago. At that time, Matt was working as a construction worker at various job sites. During one particular period, he was working in a rural area, and as was his routine, he stayed near the work site. The area where Matt worked and stayed was close to a village temple. Inside the temple grounds, there was also a school. Every evening after work, Matt would often invite his co-workers and some local school children to play football. The temple had a large football field, which seemed to double as a multi-purpose area for the school. Since the field was within the temple grounds, its rear side was adjacent to an old pavilion. Beyond the pavilion, there was a low, dilapidated temple wall that seemed to have been abandoned and left unrepaired for a long time. What used to be a high wall had eroded, making it low enough for Matt and the kids waiting for their turn to play football to sit and hang out. Nearby the wall stood a massive tamarind tree, its branches spreading across the area. The tree looked ancient, likely over 100 years old. One day, after finishing a football game, Matt went to sit under the tamarind tree with the children as usual. Some kids leaned against the tree trunk, playfully placing their feet on the wall, while others sat along the wall. After a while, one of the children, named Artie, noticed a small bowl tucked into the tree's crevice. The bowl was an old, small plastic one, seemingly left there by someone. None of them had seen it before, even though they frequently played in the area. Curious, Artie went over to pick up the bowl. Inside, he found a few withered tamarind leaves and, at the bottom, for gold rings. The rings didn't look like real gold. They seemed fake, with some peeling to reveal silver underneath, and others showing signs of rust. However, one or two still had their gold coating intact. They didn't seem valuable at all. Everyone gathered around to look at the rings, and, being children, Artie picked one up and said to his friends, "Hey, I'm taking this one." When Matt saw this, he stepped in to warn Artie, "I think you shouldn't take it. We don't know who these rings belong to, and since they're on temple grounds, they might be something bad that someone discarded here." Hearing this, Artie hesitated, a mix of fear and defiance in his expression. But in the end, he placed the ring back where he found it. After that, everyone dispersed and went home. The next day was the day Matt had to move to work in another district. He brought his pickup truck to load his belongings and prepare for the move. While he was doing this, a motorcycle pulled up behind him. When Matt turned around, he saw Artie's younger brother riding the motorcycle, with Artie sitting on the back. Without hesitation, Artie quickly got off the bike and ran straight to Matt, saying, "Brother Matt, I have something to tell you." Matt noticed that Artie looked extremely distressed, his face showing signs of fear and unease. Concerned, Matt asked, "What's going on?" "I'm leaving for a few days to work somewhere else. Tell me quickly." Artie wasted no time and blurted out, "Last night, I was haunted by a ghost. Hearing this, Matt stopped what he was doing and motioned for Artie to sit and talk at the back of the truck. "Tell me everything that happened," Matt said. Artie began explaining. "Yesterday, after we all left, Pete and I went back to the tamarind tree and took a ring each." Matt was shocked and scolded him. "You actually took it? I told you not to. You don't know if those rings are cursed or something." Artie's face turned pale, and he replied, "Brother, I swear I saw something real. Look at my hand." Artie extended his left hand for Matt to see. His hand was severely swollen and bruised, as if it had been repeatedly hit with something hard. It looked unnaturally swollen and injured. Artie continued his story. "Yesterday, after I took the ring home, I decided to wear it to bed. It wasn't even late, just around 9 p.m., and I hadn't turned off the lights yet. While lying down, I was about to turn to talk to my younger brother, who was sleeping next to me. Suddenly, I couldn't move my body. I felt completely paralyzed. My whole body went numb, and I started having trouble breathing. I felt so suffocated and didn't know what was happening. I tried to move to get my brother's attention, but I couldn't. It was like something was pinning me down on the bed. Then I looked around the room and saw a woman standing at the foot of my bed. I saw her very clearly because the light was still on. She had long hair, wore a white shirt, and jeans. But her face, it was black, like it was covered in shadows or something. Artie's voice trembled as he described the encounter. I was terrified, Brother Matt, and then, out of nowhere, that woman lunged at me. She grabbed the hand I had the ring on and started squeezing my finger. It felt like she was trying to pull the ring off, but the ring was small, and I had put it on so tightly that it wouldn't come off easily. She kept yanking and squeezing my finger. It hurt so much, but I couldn't scream. I couldn't even make a sound. Finally, after pulling and pulling, she managed to rip the ring off my finger. At that moment, I couldn't take it anymore. I tried to scream out loud from fear, and then everything went black. I passed out. When I came to, my brother was shaking me awake. I was on the floor under the bed. My whole body ached, especially my back and my hand. I was so scared, Brother Matt. I started crying right in front of my brother. I was shaking all over. I didn't know what had just happened, but it all happened so fast. Artie paused, visibly shaken, before continuing. I looked at my hand, and it was swollen. The ring was gone. I tried looking for it around the bed, but it wasn't there. This morning, my brother and I searched the entire room again, but we couldn't find it anywhere. Then our mom sent us out to buy some groceries. My hand hurt so badly, so I had my brother drive the motorcycle. That's when I saw you here and decided to tell you everything. Matt listened intently to the whole story, deeply concerned about what Artie had experienced. When Matt heard this, he said, "Wow, what you went through is terrifying." However, Matt was in a rush, so he told Artie, "Wait until I come back, and we'll talk about it. I need to go now. The bus is about to leave." After packing up, Matt headed to the bus terminal to wait for his ride. Several of his friends were traveling with him that day. While waiting, Matt shared the story he had just heard from Artie. His friends listened with wide eyes, clearly spooked by the tale. One of them asked, "What about the other ring that Pete took?" If Artie experienced something like this, who knows what might have happened to Pete? Matt suddenly realized he hadn't thought about Pete's situation and replied, You're right. I have no idea what might have happened. I'll ask him when I get back. About a week later, after finishing the work in the other district, Matt returned to his usual job site in Fitzanilock. There, he saw Artie and his friends playing football just as usual. Matt and his friends joined the game. After playing, everyone gathered as they typically did, sitting near the edge of the field. This time, however, none of them dared to sit under the tamarind tree. Among the group was Pete. During the conversation, Pete shared his side of the story. That day when Artie and I took the rings, I didn't wear mine. Instead, I gave it to my girlfriend to wear. Pete explained that at the time, his girlfriend was attending a military camp for a 3-day, 2-night activity. He thought it wouldn't be a big deal, but when she returned from the camp, she was furious and immediately scolded him. "What kind of ring did you give me? Do you know what I went through because of it?" Pete was confused and asked, "What happened to you?" His girlfriend then recounted the events. "After I got the ring, I thought it was pretty, so I took it with me to the camp. After finishing the day's activities, I pulled the ring out of my bag to try it on before bed. But the ring was too small, and I couldn't put it on properly because it was tight. So, I placed it on the headboard and went to sleep. As I was drifting off to sleep, I started feeling uneasy, just like what Artie described. I couldn't breathe properly, and I couldn't move my body. I felt paralyzed, pinned down by something. Then I felt the bed slowly dip, like someone was climbing onto it. When I opened my eyes, I was almost in shock. There was a woman with long hair, wearing jeans and a white shirt, standing over me. Before I could react, she slapped me across the face. She hit me so hard that my cheek stung and went numb. I was petrified. I wanted to scream but couldn't. Then the woman spoke, saying, "Give me my ring back. Give me my ring now." I didn't know what to do, and then she slapped me again. This time, it hurt so much that I blacked out completely. The next morning, when I woke up, my face still hurt. I immediately looked at the headboard, planning to get rid of the ring, but it was gone. I couldn't find it anywhere. I didn't know what to do. I had to stay another night at the camp, and I couldn't even call Pete to tell him because we didn't have cell phones back then. I had no choice but to endure one more night there. Thankfully, the second night passed without any strange occurrences. Pete finished the story, looking deeply shaken. Everyone in the group was silent, disturbed by what they had heard. What's even stranger is this. About 4 days after both Pete and Artie had shared their stories, everyone gathered again for their usual football game. During a break, one of their friends wandered over to the tamarind tree and noticed the same old plastic cup tucked in the crevice of the tree. Curious, he picked it up and found, to everyone's shock, that the cup contained the same 4 rings as before. This seemed impossible because both Artie and Pete were sure they had never returned the rings. When their friend handed one of the rings, the most pristine one, to Artie for a closer look, Artie was stunned. He immediately recognized it as the same ring he had lost in his bedroom after his terrifying experience. How could it have ended up back in the cup under the tamarind tree? Alarmed, Artie quickly urged his friend to put the rings back in the cup and return it to where they'd found it. From that day forward, none of them dared to sit under the tamarind tree again. And that concludes the chilling story Matt shared with everyone. As for the next horror tale, what will it be? Stay tuned to find out.